Welcome to Glass Half Full with Leslie Krongold. She shares her stories, experiences, and knowledge of living and coping with a chronic health condition. Learn about tools and resources and hear inspirational interviews that help you to live a life filled with quality and dignity. With 2 decades of support group leadership, Leslie's ready to help you make lemonade out of life's lemons. Are you ready?
Hello, listeners. Today's episode has the theme we'll call Learned Helplessness. It doesn't sound very pleasant, nor glass half fullish, does it? Well, hopefully by the end of this episode, you'll feel more empowered to avoid it. So what the heck is it? I can't recall when I first heard the term. I was aware of it without knowing this name, though. But before we delve into it, let's get a definition, shall we? According to Wikipedia, learned helplessness is a condition in which a person suffers from a sense of powerlessness arising from a traumatic event or persistent failure to succeed. It is thought to be one of the underlying causes of depression. If I had more time, I'd delve deeper into the research on learned helplessness, but for now, I want to go a little deeper than Wikipedia. I found an article in the New Yorker. It's called Trying to Cure Depression but Inspiring Torture. It's from January 2015. You can find this article on the internet. It's free to download, and maybe I'll try to provide a link in the podcast notes. So this article is interesting, but diverts from my original purpose. And what I did discover is that Martin Seligman coined the term learned helplessness. Seligman is a psychologist and generally known as the father of positive psychology. I'm a big fan of positive psychology, by the way. Glass half full. Anyhow, starting in 1967, Seligman's research on this topic evolved from experiments with dogs and other animals to humans. The author of the New Yorker article summarized Seligman's research findings most succinctly. Quote, "A person in a state of learned helplessness is someone who is passive, someone who has abandoned all active will and desire." Unquote. This phenomenon can be applied to many situations. The New Yorker article discusses how learned helplessness research was used as a methodology to inflict torture on 9/11 terrorist suspects by the CIA, but here we're interested in how learned helplessness impacts people with debilitating health conditions. Oh dear, I hope you didn't think this would turn into a political podcast. A few years ago, my friend Mike and I were chatting on the phone. Actually, I was recording our conversation, which he was fully aware of, and parts of it have been in previous podcast episodes. Mike lives in Key West, Florida. We know each other from the myotonic dystrophy community. Anyhow, Mike struck upon something that I had given some thought to, and I had thought of it as maintaining my independence. But anyhow, here's what Mike said.
I've been thinking about a loving rant for those wonderful people, and this is what makes it edgy, that we love and are grateful to, our spouses and our partners and our caregivers. For me, it's dear friends, some of whom I don't even know very well, who are part of a support network for me and who help me lead my life all in caps, lead my life as a guy with a chronic medical issue. And as you know, for me, that's adult onset myotonic dystrophy type 1. And my loving rant is, please, when somebody goes to try to help me, please listen to me. I love you dearly, you dear helper, you, and I'm so grateful for your help. And yet there are times, some really important times, when I want to try to do the things myself. So even if it would be like easier or faster for someone else to do something, or if it looks frustrating to you or impossible to you, for me to do it, even if it's like painful for you to watch me struggle, well, if I tell you I want to get something done on my own, please listen. For all their love and support, your love and support, and I know we're struggling together, nonetheless, the struggle is mostly mine. And so when I confront it, I get confidence and I get hope, and that sustains me in trying to lead a life that has meaning and helps others.
We spoke more, and Mike explained some of the scenarios he was dealing with, and they were very similar to mine. You'll hear later from my spouse, who is the main person in my life that is there to assist or not assist me. But first you'll hear from a professional, a psychologist, Melissa Dixon. Dr. Dixon is a professor in 2 departments at the University of Utah, Pediatric Neurology and Psychiatry and Behavioral Health. Her research and professional experience has largely focused on people with neuromuscular disorders and myotonic dystrophy in particular. We met at the annual conference for myotonic dystrophy, and recently we spoke on the phone about a number of things, but one question I had for her was about learned helplessness.
So learned helplessness is, this idea that, I guess in children, but it can happen in adults and everybody, right? So the idea that, maybe unscrewing jars is difficult for somebody, or it takes a long time, but it can still be done. But if I'm always jumping in to do that for you over and over again, it can't do that, and you're not capable of that. And so then we kind of just take that on to say like, oh, that's not something that I can do, right? So it's kind of having a sense, if you have a condition, or you have, a physical impairment or a mental impairment, like being powerless, as it's associated with doing different, activities of daily function. And if we continually go in and rescue and help, we're not actually helping that person, evolve their skill set, adapt, find different ways of doing something, and learning. We're taking that away from them, and telling them that, you're helpless in this situation. And so then that's then internalized into how they see themselves, and then they stop trying to do those behaviors.
Well, it's an interesting issue because in life, and I've talked with other, patient peers about, let me do something, even if it takes me longer and you perceive that I am struggling, I need to do this on my own. So it's a case of maybe remaining independent. But there's also, for me, in opening jars, I 95% of the time can't do it, so I don't mind asking for help or someone offering for help. But then there's that personality component where some people never want to ask for help, and then some people who a patient may always expect help. So I mean, there are just like so many varying shades of gray I see related to this topic. What are your thoughts about that?
Oh, I think there are so many varying shades of gray. It stems from individual experiences and environments. And, learned helplessness can be expressed with one group, but then it could look it could be non-existent in a different group. For example, when you're saying, give me a task, it may take me longer, don't jump in, I'll do it. And then I'll let you know if this is a struggle for me or I need some help. You could be doing that with maybe family and close friends who you feel comfortable around, and they're comfortable around you, allowing you enough time to do something. And you feel comfortable asking for help if you need it. But in a different social environment where you didn't know people, and if you had a different personality, perhaps you would either not offer to take on a task and just, sit back and allow other people to do things for you.
So when this issue comes up, is for you in your work, are you to the patient, the caregiver, or both of them about this sort of, topic?
Yeah, usually both. If I'm seeing somebody individually, I'm talking about them, I'm talking about it with them individually. But if a caregiver is there, I'll talk about it with both of them and, really try to identify, is there something, is this a physical issue that you literally, can't do something because it's too hard, it's too hard or it's too difficult or you physically can't do it, or it's something that, you just don't necessarily like to do and they always do it for you and that's just easier for you. So you let them do that. And then, as a result of that, you feel like you don't have a say or you don't have control over that, but you've given that control to somebody else. So I try to challenge, those thoughts of, is this a real thing or is this just a perception of your ability? Is it your actual ability or a perception of your ability? That, that kind of, spark conversations between, individuals and caregivers to really understand, are caregivers are they jumping in all the time? Are they contributing to some of this learned helplessness? Is it a symbiotic relationship there? Or is the caregiver upset because, they're no longer ever trying, right? So it gives different paths to look at, to look at really kind of what is the function of what is the function of the behavior? What are both stakeholders getting out of it? If you have a caregiver who really are they always jumping in to help, and then they're because they want to, and they don't want to see anybody struggle, and then is it contributing to the sense that you can't do that sense of helplessness, and is it disempowering an individual because they would do it differently. I think you can think about it a lot like developmentally with children. And like as little kids are learning how to do things that adults already know how to do, or older children, like big brothers, in thinking about my kids, right? So, as my daughter's learning how to do certain things, I already know how to do them. My son does. It takes her, more time to complete an activity or a task, even just like, writing a paper or homework assignment or the title of a book versus, how long it would take me. And that's because, I've had lots of practice, or my older son has had lots of practice versus her. She needs to have that experience to practice so that she can master that skill. And if we keep jumping in and saying, oh, you're taking too much time, I'll do it, we're sending the message that, you can't do this, you take too much time, you need help with this. And so does that become internalized of, I'm not good at this, I can't do this, you're so much better, I'm just going to let you do it. And if we also don't provide opportunities and model behavior that shows how to ask for help, then, it's kind of this confluence of all of those things that, learned helplessness can really take hold.
Yeah, I would be concerned, and my audience are primarily adults, and obviously with debilitating conditions. I wonder if you have any advice in the context of, adults, whether it's a parent and adult child or spousal relationship or sibling relationship, on how to mitigate feelings of resentment that may exist between one or both of the parties.
So I think that it can certainly vary across, across situations, across relationships, across the lifespan and disease progression, right? And if you have, if in one relationship somebody always cooks or opens the door for you, or does the serious physical things for you, you can take that and feel like you can internalize that and feel like you have no connection, that you don't need to do those things. And then if you're in a different situation with other individuals, perhaps you would feel more autonomy over, what you're doing. And so you would take charge, or you would engage in a different way. Well, you said something and you upset my feelings. When I'm saying it like that, I'm blaming you, right? I'm constantly blaming you. But to say, when you said this, I felt this way, or this is what it was like for me, so that we can open up that sense of communication and, and to show like, hey, you're an empathic person. So can you imagine what it was like for me, to have to experience X in this way? And, you have empathy, so you probably can understand what that might look like. And another way or something else to include in this is, to understand that whatever is said or whatever is done, maybe the intention wasn't to hurt someone or to cause resentment or these, like a rift in the relationship, but maybe that's the impact, right? So we can lead with saying, when this happened, here's how I experienced it. And I recognize that may not have been your intention, but here's what it was like for me, and how, and then that opens the door for a conversation to say, how can we do it differently next time so that I get my needs met and you get your needs met? And, and also the conversation of like, what are your needs in terms of, this relationship, or in terms of our communications? If I'm talking and not, if you're talking to me and I'm not responding, then am I thinking, oh, they're just being a jerk and they don't want to respond? Or are they thinking about things and processing them and they just need a little bit more time? And so to really have an understanding of kind of, how we as individuals interact and what we need from each other, and to be able to verbalize that. And that's not always that easy, but I think in different relationships, people do it differently all the time, right? Some people just like to talk. And when they're upset, they like to just keep talking and work it out that way over and over again, circling back. And other people like to just, be quiet, sit with the information that they've had, really think about it and contemplate, and then come back to it, maybe outside of the context of if it's an argument or, something that's getting emotions going. And, so there's just different communication styles. So understanding what your communication style might be versus mine, what do you need and what do I need? And, if I say, like, this is what I need from you. If I'm talking to you, just please acknowledge that you hear me, and that you need some time, and for you, if you need time, to say, I hear you, what you're saying, but I need some time to think about this further. Can we come back and discuss something, later? And later being, 10 minutes from now, or I need a day, right? But it really works so well when we do it. Yeah. And when you take, when you take it on and say, this is what it's like for me, it's hard. For the most part, I'd say we are in an empathic society. So it's hard for us to say, like, well, you get to have your feelings. You get to feel resentful. You get to feel angry. You get to feel happy. And for you to, to be able to say what that's like, I can put myself in your position and say, oh, okay, I see that now.
Perhaps one of your takeaways from this episode will be to work on communication and listening techniques with whomever you have a relationship, whether it be a friend, family, or intimate partner. I admit these can be difficult conversations, and I believe they need to be ongoing. My situation changes depending on how I feel on a particular day, how much energy I have, but it's progressive. How can we maintain a sense of independence, empowerment, while relying on others for assistance? Well, here's a conversation with my spouse of 22 years. I'm not thrilled about her mention of being a caregiver, but that's for another episode. Here's Jessica. It's basically the idea of needing help when you need it and when you don't need it, and making that distinction. And, it's something that you and I have
Sure.
experienced.
So can I give you an example?
Yeah.
Okay. So I think the example would be something like me saying, I'll hold your bag. Like, do you want me to let me hold your bag, when you don't need me to. And then we get into a pattern where I always take your bag. Right?
Yeah, that's an example. So for me, I'd like to be as independent as possible. And there are certain activities like holding my backpack where often it doesn't bother me. It depends on how I feel, how much is in it, what we're doing, what the weather is. So it's a decision of like, do I need it and ask for it? But then sometimes when you offer it and I don't really need it, I want to say no, but then you might be, come on, I'll hold it. You grab it and
Right.
I acquiesce because, of course, it helps a little, but I don't want to become dependent on that. So what I'd like you to talk about is maybe your feelings around all that. And sometimes when we have a conflict in that I might, be very adamant that I don't want you to do something for me.
Yeah, sure. So I think the main thing is that, and obviously I'm putting my caregiver hat on right now, but the way I normally see the world is not with that caregiver hat on. And oftentimes I'm kind of shocked into it is a little too strong of a word, but I switch. I realize that we're in a different scenario now and I need to take on the role of a caregiver, right? And so you learn those patterns. So I'll give you a simple example of that. There was a time when you could open doors really easily, doors to, stores or whatever, right? And so, gradually it's a learned behavior on both of our parts where, we get to a door and I kind of move forward a little faster and open the door for you. At some point, you might have asked me to do that, but now it's kind of second nature. So that's kind of the way that things go where, we might be walking up to a store and then I realize, door, okay, I'm going to go up and open it. So that's always the kind of the scenario that a caregiver is in. It's like, okay, when do you switch and move forward? So when do you switch, right? So in, a scenario where maybe we're a little uncertain, I think our instinct is to switch, right? Because for a lot of reasons. First is that that's the pattern that we've created within our behavior. But secondly, it's hard for us to see, someone we love and care for in a situation or potentially in a situation where they'll potentially be frustrated or it might not go well, or in the end, you're going to end up helping them anyhow. And there is, I think, especially for newer caregivers, a speed issue too, right? So, it's true. You can probably do almost everything that I help you with. And, you'll find some way to do it, right? But I can do it faster. And so that aspect of it is also there, right? And that I think just has to do with modern life and how we have a million things on our to-do list, and why don't I help save 20 seconds and, open the door for you or whatever it might be. So anyhow, that's my kind of high level view of it.
Yeah, I think that's where the conflict is sometimes patience.
Mm-hmm.
Because it is a dynamic situation, and then it kind of levels off to the new normal. But between that, what the old normal and the new normal was, there's you adapting to changes as well as myself, and that kind of resistance where I still want to be independent, but I need a little more time, like with speech, So it's like when people try to fill in the blank of what I'm trying to say, that's annoying. Yeah, but I mean, I think that's what you hit upon is that whole, when you said speeding up, that whole lag time where there is struggle involved. And I'm sure that's hard for a caregiver to see that struggle and want to help, jump in and help to make it easier, but also, you got to, I think it has to be tempered with, okay, this person, my family member, my spouse, whomever, can still do it, but it just takes longer. And may want to, take on that challenge, that struggle.
Yeah, I mean, what you just said made me think of kind of the distinction between a caregiver and, maybe a rehab therapist or something, a physical therapist, right? A physical therapist is trying to help you get better, right? And so they have to have the patience. They're teaching you to, lift your arm in a different way so you can, take the spoon and feed yourself. And they will sit there until you get it. And the idea is that it will, get easier for you, and probably you'll be able to do it faster. So, but as a caregiver, that isn't the scenario that we're in. And especially if we have, loving feelings about someone, not only is it, both of our lives that are impacted, right? Like I lose the 20 seconds too. And I'm not saying that I get upset about that, but I'm saying as we watch you, we're thinking of a couple different things. Subconsciously, probably. The first is, I'm losing those 20 seconds too. Second one is, oh my God, how painful that might be. And it could be physical pain, it could be emotional pain. Like we're seeing that and we're wanting to take that away. So take away that pain from the person that we love. We'll just do it. They won't have to think about it, and so forth. And there might be some other things in there too, but it's a very different, we're not there to help you get better. I mean, we're there as we see a decline, right? And we're there to step in. So I think patience isn't a normal part of, it has to be a learned part of that. It's not a normal reaction for those reasons.
Getting back to the New Yorker article I mentioned earlier in this episode, according to the author of the article and the psychologist Martin Seligman, learned helplessness isn't so much about being helpless. It's about empowerment and control. I'd love to hear your comments on this topic of learned helplessness. You can share a comment on the Glass Half Full website, in the Glass Half Full Facebook group, or send me an email. Leslie@glasshalffull.online. Take care. See you later.
Thank you for listening to Glass Half Full. Leslie invites you to leave a rating and review on iTunes. This helps spread the word to others dealing with chronic health issues. For show notes, updates, and more, visit the website glasshalffull.online. glasshalffull.online.